Hello, everyone. I just wanted to provide this video to elaborate a little further on some of the information in my final project presentation. My project is Enhancing Literary Analysis Through Tech Integration. Um, so to give you a little bit of background, I'm not in the classroom this year because I'm taking courses to earn my master's full time. However, I do have 7 years experience teaching middle school ELA, 5th through 8th grade. And for this project, I decided to design it based on a previous learner population. It's the 6th grade class from my school I worked at last year, which was a private Catholic school in LA. Um, my goals are still kind of all over the place at this point moving forward. This master's program is going to kind of help me determine what I want to do next. I can still re enter the classroom and have a greater working knowledge of tech integration that's going to benefit my students and my instruction. But I'm also considering moving into a leadership position, something like a tech specialist or an instructional coach, where I can support other teachers in their tech integration and classroom instruction. This project was designed so that I can use it in either role that I choose moving forward. It could be implemented absolutely in an ELA classroom if I return to the classroom next year. It could also be used as a sample unit to support ELA teachers if I'm an instructional coach, or it could be used as an example of how to go through the design process for tech integrated instruction to support teachers. I have kind of two main goals related to this project for students. First is text analysis. That's the focus of the unit. It's an essential skill at all grade levels, and it requires students to be able to comprehend text, to infer and think critically, and also to be able to make connections between their ideas and evidence within the text. In addition to this, I want students to be able to be meaningfully engaged throughout the instruction because this leads to better student performance. So I tried to incorporate tools that would increase engagement in terms of fostering thoughtful discussion about what students were reading and writing. And I tried to keep in mind that the technology for this unit could be leveraged for a lot of different uses. First, it can obviously be used, if done correctly, to help students master objectives. It can also be used to engage and increase student participation. It can also benefit the teacher by providing more effective and efficient ways to review and evaluate student progress. And it can allow for learning to not only happen during the 50-minute period in the classroom, but at home as well with the right accessibility. There are three instructional objectives for the unit. These were based off the Common Core standards for 6th grade English language arts, as well as Notre Dame Academy's school goals, which relate to developing 21st century learners. So the objectives are that students will be able to analyze literary text effectively and support their analysis with accurate and relevant text evidence. They will be able to actively engage in collaborative discussion related to text analysis with their peers. And they will also be able to use communication skills such as clarity, logical order, and providing relevant support to communicate ideas effectively both in their writing and their speaking. The context for this project, I selected the topic because I think that it can be easily transferred to other units in an ELA class as well. While this particular mini unit focuses on analysis of short stories, this could also support analysis of poetry, expository text, or novels. It can also be applied in mini grade levels with some modifications. It's not super specific to just 6th grade. A little bit about the learner population. Again, this was my class from last year. So it's a 6th grade class at Notre Dame Academy in LA. There are 33 students in the class, 18 boys and 15 girls. Out of those 33 students, only 3 scored last year below grade level in reading, according to STAR test data. That's the standardized test they take online 4 times a year to monitor growth in reading and math. The remainder of the class scored at or above grade level in reading, according to the test data. This is a very social class. They love to collaborate and talk and share ideas in their small groups as well as a whole class. There are no documented learning disabilities, physical disabilities, or language barriers in this class, but there are a variety of preferences in relation to reading, writing, and tech use. So I tried to be mindful of that. Additionally, the learners at this school have their own iPads that they carry to all of their classes and take home with them as well. They use their iPads in all subject areas on a daily basis and are proficient in many programs, including Google Classroom, accessing their textbooks electronically, creating presentations, writing, using Graphio for concept mapping, and using Google Drive to share documents. These learners have previously received instruction in 5th grade, 4th grade, 3rd grade on summarizing text, as well as basic literary elements such as plot, character setting, and theme. However, mini lessons reviewing some of these may be necessary to just refresh students' knowledge of these topics. These learners, again, have experience with all the technologies I'll be using in the project with the exception of Flipgrid. Flipgrid will be brand new to them and will require a lot of support. In terms of generative strategies, I'll be using concept mapping or thinking maps. Students at NDA have been using the same 8 thinking maps since transitional kindergarten, so they are very comfortable by middle school with how to use them, what they're for, and how to organize information into them. This unit is going to cover several knowledge and skills. It will address literary elements that students will be analyzing, such as plot, setting, characters, conflict, theme, and point of view. It will also address summarizing text as well as analysis of text. It will also cover pulling appropriate evidence to support analysis, as well as organizing one's ideas, and it will also work to improve their verbal communication skills. These are the technologies I will be integrating in this project. Google Classroom is something they already use. It's an LMS that allows teachers to post announcements, homework assignments, and share resources with students. Of course, paper and pencil is a technology we're all familiar with. Graphio is an app that allows them to create diagrams. In this case, it'll be used for thinking maps. We'll also give them the choice of using Word or Google Docs if they prefer that over paper and pencil. And finally, all students will be using Flipgrid, which is a social learning platform where students can record video responses and then create discussion threads by replying to one another. These are the affordances for Google Classroom. The big thing is the students are very familiar with this. It's on all of their iPads, so I could use it to send them surveys for formative evaluation, post warm-ups for discussion, as well as share Flipgrid links with them to make it easier to access that site. There really aren't any constraints related to this particular unit in Google Classroom. Of course, the biggest affordance of paper and pencil is that all students have access to it, and it supports learners who prefer to write over use of an iPad or a device. They can use it for concept mapping, summarizing, and organizing ideas into paragraph form in this unit. There are some constraints, but nothing that's not manageable. It does only allow for written communication practice. It can be a little difficult to read depending on the student's handwriting, and it requires physical submission. It must be handed in directly to the teacher, which means feedback can take a little longer than electronic feedback on something like Google Classroom. Graphio, again, is accessible to all students, and they're very experienced with this app, so there will be no instructor support required to use this in the unit. It helps them to create thinking maps that help them visualize relationships between ideas, in this case, ideas in text. And this is a great option for learners who prefer using a device over paper and pencil. The only constraint, like many apps, is that it requires active monitoring from the teacher because the cool choices for formatting and colors can lead to students getting a little distracted. But as long as the teacher is reminding them to use it for creating ideas, then it's not that big of a problem. Students can also choose to use Word or Google Docs. I say both because depending on the iPad and the year of the iPad and things like that, students have one or both available to them. It's really up to them if they have both, which one they're more comfortable using. And this supports learners who prefer to type versus writing by hand. Um, of course, a constraint, if you're familiar with Google Docs, is that the teacher again needs to be actively monitoring use of this because a document can be shared with peers through the school email and they could be using it for non instructional purposes like chatting. The biggest technology I'm introducing in this project is Flipgrid. It will be available on all middle school students' iPads through the app and the website. And it allows students to share a summary and analysis of text verbally through video recording. It gives every student a voice. And even if they don't say anything during a class discussion, they can go home and upload or record a video and still feel like they're participating in that discussion. Um, it also allows students to react to each other's posts and comment. So they're working on the collaborative discussion piece. The only constraint is that this is a brand new technology for this learner population. So a lot of support and direct instruction will be needed in the first couple of days of the mini unit. The generative strategies that I'll be using in this unit are summary and mapping. Summary, of course, is a very important skill that we use all the time in English language arts. In this unit, we'll be using summary to improve our comprehension of text before we step into the analysis level. Mapping will be used to help students summarize text, analyze literary elements, and locate text evidence throughout the unit. Students will be able to do this on paper or pencil or using Graphio. This will be a 5-day mini unit. Day 1 will focus on how to effectively summarize a literary text to demonstrate comprehension. And they'll be uploading their first Flipgrid video, a summary video. Day 2 will take that summary and then move a step further by analyzing specific literary elements from the same story using a thinking map. In day 3, students will then use their thinking map to craft a written analysis and then record that initial analysis on Flipgrid as well. And then in days 4 and 5, students will complete a performance task where they go through the same process independently to demonstrate mastery of summary and analysis skills as well as communication skills. So this is kind of a breakdown of day 1 of the unit. And again, I'm sharing the presentation without the audio as well. So you can feel free to refer to that to kind of read over this. This would be an example of a sequencing map done on notebook paper for day 1. This would be an example of the same type of sequencing map using Graphio for students who prefer using the device. Again, you can use the PowerPoint presentation also attached on the website to read over these details. Here's another example of a thinking map. This one's for analysis. Day 3 of the unit. This will take you, it's a hyperlink to an example video I posted on Flipgrid to help students kind of see how their video should look.
This is just an example video to help you as you're preparing to post your literary analysis of Scott.
Again, that's a hyperlink in the PowerPoint presentation as well, so you can view that entire video. And then the final 2 days are, of course, the performance task. And this is the rubric that will be used for that summative assessment or the performance task. They'll be evaluated on their summary, analysis, inclusion of evidence, their Flipgrid presentation, as well as their active participation by discussing and replying on other people's videos. This project incorporates TPACK through the selection of technologies that will help to teach the content, summary, and analysis while using appropriate pedagogical strategies such as modeling, scaffolds, opportunities to collaborate, and mapping as well. It allows for a lot of student choice in the project, which enhances the instruction and engagement. And Flipgrid specifically will effectively allow students to demonstrate their knowledge at different points throughout the 4-day lesson to help the instructor evaluate student progress towards mastery. It also addresses the UDL guidelines. There are many options for perception, language, and comprehension, for physical action expression and executive functions, as well as for recruiting interest, sustaining effort, and self-regulation. Again, these are shared in the presentation if you would like to read them in detail. It also addresses multimedia learning principles. Specifically, it's going to address the coherence and redundancy principles, the signaling principle, and the personalization and voice principles, as well as the segmenting principle. So I attempted to address as many principles as I could. And again, you can read through the detailed examples of this in the PowerPoint. Finally, the evaluation methods. There will be plenty of formative assessment throughout the unit. I will be assessing their summaries by viewing their initial Flipgrid videos on day 1. I will be evaluating their concept mapping to see their understanding of how to analyze text and locate textual evidence. I will also review their second Flipgrid videos where they're analyzing text. And I will observe in class and through Flipgrid student collaboration and participation throughout the 4 days. For summative assessment, it's that final performance task. This will be primarily focused on evaluating their ability to effectively analyze text, but as the rubric showed, it will measure the other knowledge and skills addressed throughout the unit as well. I used 3 different evaluation methods for formative evaluation. First, I completed a self-evaluation prior to implementing the unit. This was done with a set of questions that I had created. And ultimately, the biggest takeaway for me was that I needed to add more supports in introducing Flipgrid. So my PowerPoint that would actually be used for instruction includes a lot more information for students about how to use Flipgrid. I also sent my project for expert review to a former colleague of mine. I got primarily positive feedback there, but it was still good to hear her thoughts. And then computer interviewing would occur during implementation through the use of Google Forms and computer interviewing. Finally, the implications for this project. Obviously, the ability to analyze text in an in-depth way is not only an essential skill in an ELA class, but it supports critical thinking in all subject areas. And if students can infer and synthesize information effectively in text, this is going to improve text-based learning in every other content area as well. Communication, which is the second objective for this unit, is obviously a necessary 21st century skill. Developing students' ability to communicate not only in writing but through verbal presentation will help them both in school but in the real world as well. And finally, collaboration, another very important 21st century skill, providing students with regular opportunities in and outside of class to collaborate helps to build student confidence, helps them improve their ability to work together successfully and effectively, and helps them to see the value in working with others and what good can come from it. And that is my project. Again, all the other details can be reviewed in more detail by referring to the other materials. Thank you so much.